Sometime between 3000 and 10,000 BCE, a civilization of people flourished along the Dead Sea plains. However, because of their great sins and unforgivably evil nature, the Lord himself destroyed both cities in a hail of fire and brimstone. The display was so fearful that it was referenced throughout history to tell of the great doom that would be in store for anyone who dared to commit such grievous sins against God or his followers. Be they human or angel in nature, to this day, their names still hold the weight of their sins. They are Sodom and Gomorrah. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah is closely connected to the story of Abraham and his nephew, Lot. They had settled in an area near the Dead Sea, with Lot and his followers choosing to make their stead in Dead Sea plains. At first, this was good and well. In time, however, many issues arose. It appears that the first issue of the plain cities can be traced back to a discord among ruling powers. Each of the plain cities had their own king. These kings were not seen as official rulers. However, because of the entirety of the Jordan plain was ruled by the kingdom of Elam and had been for 12 years. The king of Elam was King Chedorlaomer. After the 13th year of the rule had begun, the 5 kings of the plain cities decided to band together and wage war against the kingdom of Elam. This resulted in a heavy loss of life among all of the plain cities, who were ultimately defeated. The cities were spoiled of all their goods and captives were taken as slaves, including Lot. But the defeat was turned to victory when Abraham decided to get involved on behalf of his nephew. Abraham's forces were able to slaughter King Chedorlaomer's army and free the plain cities from Elam's rule. Unfortunately, the story would not end happily for the cities of the plains. 4 of the 5 cities would be destroyed with fire and brimstone, sent directly from the Lord. It is speculated that the terrible wickedness that the people of these cities descended into after being freed from the rule of Elam was a cause for their terrible fate. Although the story of Sodom and Gomorrah is best known because of the documentation in the Torah, Bible, and Quran, there are accounts outside of these sources that tell of the great wickedness that resided into the cities. People who lived in these plains areas were known to be especially cruel to travelers and beggars. They enjoyed making these people suffer greatly. There are many accounts in which the people of Sodom and Gomorrah have been recorded raping, murdering, and torturing innocent people. Some accounts tell of a particularly cruel practice that was employed to torture beggars to death. It was said that the evil people of Sodom and Gomorrah were known to take gold pieces and write their names on the currency before giving it to a beggar. The beggar who took the coin and attempted to buy food in their market, however, would be met with a cruel surprise. No one in the city would sell them food. The citizens of Sodom and Gomorrah would continue to give the beggars the copious amount of money that should have sustained them for many months. But with no one willing to sell them food, they eventually starved to death. At this point in time, the citizens of the cities went through the pockets of the recently deceased and reclaimed their money. The cycle would then begin again with a new victim. With so many terrible deeds that can be traced back to the city, it is no surprise that they were not allowed to thrive. In fact, only one of the 7 plain cities is said to have been spared from the great storm of fire and brimstone, and is thought to have survived into modern day as Zohar. However, the cause of the destruction of the cities remained largely theoretical. The tale of the demise of Sodom and Gomorrah begins with the Lord sending 3 angels to go to earth and speak with Abraham and his wife Sarah. The angels disguise themselves as travelers and go to Abraham's city. Once there, they are persuaded by Abraham and Sarah to stay in their homes as guests. Although Abraham and Sarah do not realize it, they have passed the test and it will be spared for the following destruction. Later on in the evening, the travelers reveal themselves as angels and tell Abraham of the destruction that is to befall Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham is terrified for his nephew Lot and pleads with God to change his mind and spare the 2 cities if even 50 good and righteous men can be found in the combined population of the cities. God agrees and the city is searched, but only evil men are found. Abraham continues to plead with God to spare Sodom and Gomorrah if 40 righteous men could be found. God shows that he is merciful yet again by agreeing, but Abraham fails to find the numbers yet again. He continues to plead with the Lord to spare the city if he can find a certain number of faithful followers, decreasing his number by 10 each time, until he is left pleading for the soul of 10 good men, which he cannot find, even 10 good men in a city numbering thousands. Two of the Lord's angels travel to Sodom to investigate and meet with Lot. When Lot meets the angels, he is merciful and insists that they must stay in their house as guests. He is very generous to his guests despite them being strangers. After finishing their meal, however, Lot's house was surrounded by many of the evil men of the city. It is suggested that the men of all ages surrounded the house and demanded that Lot send his two strange guests outside so they may know them. Many people interpret this to mean that the men of Sodom and Gomorrah wish to have sex with the travelers, though there are some who propose that the townspeople simply want to interrogate the two strangers. The men surrounding the house do not want Lot's virgin daughters and become angry when the strangers are not handed over to them. They attempted to rush forward and break down Lot's door. This attempt is foiled when the strangers reveal themselves to be angels and emit a blinding light that takes away the vision of the evil men until the next day. Then they reveal themselves to Lot and his family. They tell him of the destruction that is coming to Sodom and Gomorrah and order them to take their things and run to safety, but not to look back when God rained down fire and brimstone upon the cities. Lot and his family run towards safety and hold on to each other to ensure that none of them look back, but the wife cannot resist the temptation. Some versions claim it is because she is guilty of sin. She looks back at the cities as they are being destroyed and is turned into a pillar of salt. As a result of her disobedience, the rest of Lot's family is spared and lives to tell the tales of the terrible demise of the cities. Thanks for watching. If you like to see more content, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.